Okay, I know that I recently mentioned this in a video, but I don't think I've ever made a video just dedicated to this concept. I am aware that so many of my subscribers and viewers do not live in America. They're not accustomed to American culture. And so a lot of the times I like making videos to help people from outside of America understand more about the American perspective in reality, aside from what you see on TV and movies. So I want to make this video to remind everyone and myself that America only has two neighbors. We've got Canada and we've got Mexico. And I want to talk about, maybe from a somewhat of a psychological point of view, how that frames the American mindset. Okay? So just to put in perspective, we're geographically and even population-wise, we're a pretty large country, sandwiched in between two other pretty large countries. Those are our only neighbors. And Canada, and the joke here in America is that Canada is the 51st state. We love Canadians, but we really can't tell the difference between Canadians and ourselves other than when they say A at the end of the sentences, which is cool. We love Canadians. We have nothing bad to say about Canadians. But again, we can't tell ourselves apart from Canadians unless they give it away with the word A, or because even their accent's so similar to ours. And then there's Mexico, which, from my perspective, growing up in the South, so many people from Mexico migrated here anyway. So it's like, I feel very accustomed to being around people that moved here from Mexico. That's our only neighbors. Yet America is a melting pot. So I think it's complex. We've only got two neighbors, and yet we're a melting pot. People from all over the world, different cultures, ethnicities, religions, living in this nation. But we still get away with not really having to speak another language, despite all the people who are Hispanic here in America. If you still don't have to speak Spanish, it might help you, but you don't really need to. I mean, it's funny, for me, I took 2 years of French in high school and I think 2 more in college. I'd say between 4 and 5 years of French. I can read French okay, and I can speak it in a way that you'd probably make fun of me because my French accent's so bad. But they made us basically learn a different language. And with me getting my college degree in English, you had to take a lot of foreign language classes, which is a little bit of a paradox because it's an English degree. So very exposed to the French language. And I took a year of Spanish also in high school. But see, that's the thing. It's all trivial. When will I ever need to speak French or Spanish or even read it? I won't. There's no need to as an American. It really serves me no benefit. It's just something I had to do to get through high school and college. But what about Europe, for example, where many of my subscribers are from? And thank you, by the way, for all of you who subscribe. And it makes me feel good to know that people from all over the world are watching this silly, ignorant American talk about the American perspective and try to understand race and ethnicity and culture. Thank all of you for being here. So compare Americans to any nation in Europe. Generally, smaller countries, geographically, generally have several neighbors who speak different languages. So, for example, President Trump's wife, I guess she speaks like 5 or 6 languages. And to an American, we're like, wow, that's amazing she speaks that many languages. But then also, well, if that's where you grew up, you sort of had to, because you live in a smaller country, and if you go to a different country, they're speaking a different language. And so you, by default, learn new languages and kind of have to. But not when you grow up in America. This is a big country. And it's like, for us, we've got, our 50 states. You drive an hour and you're already in a different state, but they don't speak a different language. They may have a different accent, but they don't speak a different language. English is still the main spoken language in every state. Even if other languages are starting to become more popular, still, you can be an American and only speak English and totally get away with it. So I think I'm making this video to remind us of the American perspective, why it exists. So in review, We've only got 2 neighbors. Our neighbor to the north, we basically accept as the 51st state anyway. We've got Mexico, but at the same time, we've got so many Mexican Americans living here anyway. It's all the same. And then, so therefore we only really have to speak English. Compare that to someone in Europe. You could drive an hour and be in a different country where they speak a different language. In America, we drive an hour, we're in a different state. Probably even, for the most part, gonna have the same accent. You know, we've got different regional accents, but for the most part, we're not forced to learn different languages, to really become that much accustomed to different cultures and governments and that sort of thing. But I want to end with what I feel is a bit of irony. With all that being said, we're still ethnically diverse, and perhaps more so than certain countries in Europe, certain ones, perhaps. So, I think that's interesting. I think it's important for me to sort this out loud because it reminds me, I keep forgetting we only have 2 neighbors, and that's so unusual for so many parts of the world, especially Europe and all the nations in Africa even. I mean, so much of the globe. But I keep forgetting we have so few neighbors, and you can totally get away with only speaking English. And it's really just trivial to learn a second language unless your career is based on it or you're marrying someone from a different background and they speak a different language. I'm gonna live my whole life knowing French on the side, just for fun, just because I did it to get a college degree in English. I don't need to ever speak a different language. And I'm not saying that from a conceited, boastful point of view. I'm saying, as an American, that's all you really need. What are your thoughts on that? I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Because in certain ways, America really is unique, having so few neighbors and not really needing to learn other cultures, other nations. We're not needing to do that. We want to because it's exotic to us. Most of the world is exotic to us. All right, so many things you could say in the comment section. So many ways we can expand this into another video, which is what I love to do. I love to keep these conversations going.